All right. So we, to those who may be attending our meetings for the first time, we normally do just club business at the beginning, and then go to our panel discussion or feature presentation. Today it's to discuss the general election results, reflect on PDHC accomplishments, and also talk about what we want to do over the following year. So we're not going to talk about every single election that took place in Maryland, but we'll point out, for example, that the governor's office was occupied by a Republican for the past 8 years, and now, for the first time in 8 years, it's now occupied by a Democrat, Wes Moore and Aruna Miller. Couple of observations. I think there will be no change because the state delegation, the Maryland legislature, has a supermajority, and it did what it wanted to do. And I think now might be a little easier, but in terms of the direction of I hope to be surprised. I'll just put it that way. One thing that was notable was during the primaries, I believe it was the Democratic Governors Association or some group was spent a lot of money in Maryland to elevate Dan Cox, which was, I think, which is not good. I think that was terrible. Anyways, that was the idea was that it would help Wes Moore, but unfortunately, I think it also has the effect of advancing Dan Cox's ideas on a wider scale. So maybe the long-term impact may not be that good. Notable results for the state that applies to Howard County. Chao Wu and Natalie Ziegler beat incumbent state delegate Trent Kittleman, and it looks like she received the highest vote in Howard County, in the Howard County portion of District 9, and Chao Wu and Natalie Ziegler received more votes in Montgomery County, in the Montgomery County portion of District 9, that's good news. I personally, I'm happy to see Chao Wu win his race. He worked really hard, and so it's good to see that. When I attended his campaign celebration on Sunday, and someone mentioned that their son described Chao Wu as a trailblazer, and I agree. I mean, he's definitely a trailblazer that has managed to win BOE election 2018 and go on to win this race in the state delegation race. So congratulations to Chao Wu and Natalie Ziegler. So next, locally, wait, I think, okay, yeah. So locally, we had the the county executive, the incumbent county executive, Calvin Ball, win his race. I forgot to put his win number there, but I believe it was like 59% or something. It was, and so that's the county executive, and the incumbent council members won their race. This was so, and those are their results. Of course, you know, really. So just, you know, it's a status quo election for the most part, but couple of notable things here is the county executive received a lot of developer money, and they're going to expect results next year. And this is what really concerns me, is when it comes to the general plan, they're going to want to see results for all that money that they gave, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you know, we should really be concerned. And, so, you know, another thing is, you know, there were a couple of races where the incumbents, less, you know, for example, District 2, the incumbents did not have any, the incumbent did not have any meaningful challenge, whether it's in the primaries or actually he didn't have a challenger in the primaries, but he raised a lot of money from developers. Almost all his money was from developers. And so this should really concern us. I mentioned this before. In a normal world, you know, people, I mean, there would be daily demonstrations out there. I mean, what's going on in this county is really not normal. The kind of inappropriate contributions is just it's very scary. So yeah, just, you know, it is a status quo election. Or just to point out, the Board of Education, Jackie McCoy and Linfeng Chen won their elections, the at-large elections, and so congratulations to them. And I would say this was also a good year for CEF candidates. You know, Councilmember Liz Walsh, Councilmember Deb Jung, and candidate Joan Pontius. They, you know, they really showed, and of course the candidate for county executive, Alan Kittleman, they showed that this program works. And you know, despite the initial, you know, some people may not use this word, but intentional sabotage that was attempted, it worked, and people, you know, they were able to raise, you know, money and run a very good campaign. And Joan, I'll let you. You were talking about your interaction with this about the CEF program today, so I was going to let you talk just in a little bit, but wanted to say, you know, it was a really good accomplishment, Joan's campaign. It was interesting because Youngman was running ads on Fox News and CNN. You know, in Fox News, he was talking about, he was just, you know, using the same, you know, right-wing talking points to describe Joan, and then on CNN he was presenting himself as this moderate candidate, and apparently he was lamenting the extreme views or whatever at the county council installation ceremony, and I got a chuckle out of that. That he was complaining of extremist rhetoric, but I think overall, I don't think that the Republican Party in Howard County will take this to heart, but they were trying to make this a lot of their campaign strategy was to make it about social issues, and it backfired, because it helped those who I describe as corporate Democrats to use that and rile up their own base and distract from the core issues when it comes to the county, which is zoning and land use. And they were able to rile up their base, and in a county where we have majority Democrat, that's gonna be beneficial. So I would say that was a mistake on their part, and I don't think they're going to learn that from that mistake. So look forward to something maybe even more outrageous in 2026. Just a summary of Joan, do you want to talk about your meeting today? You said you had a meeting today on the CEF program.
Yeah, and Deb was also there along with the other CEF candidates, but it was they wanted to hear some feedback from us. And I think all of us expressed the frustration in not knowing what was meant by coordination, and the fear of, if I speak to this other candidate, maybe I'll be disqualified from the CEF program. And they really need to clarify that. And then another problem was knowing when you would be eligible to get the money. For example, in my case, I was in an uncontested primary, and they said, well, since the primary is uncontested, you don't get your funds because you aren't running against anyone. Even though, David Youngman had already, we were running for the same office, but we weren't running against each other in the primary. And they said that that's a problem at the state level, that they've defined, an election to include the primary, not the general election. And so I pointed out, well, the solution for that is just to get a friend to run against you. When you sign up, just have a fake candidate run. I think it costs $50 to declare your candidacy. And so I don't know where that's going to end up. But I think Deb Jung also had problems with getting money before the primary. And I think Alan Kittleman too. So that's completely not fair, because that means if you don't have, if you're the only one running in your party, your other candidate can spend money all the way up to the primary, and you don't have your funds. And then there were some other things like the technical difficulties of submitting reports and that, but that's, that was less interesting.
Overall, Joan, did they think it was a success?
Oh, everyone thought it was great.
Okay.
All of Christiana Rigby was there, and Phil Nichols for Alan Kittleman, and Deb and Liz. And all of us were very grateful and thought everyone did a great job.
Did Christiana ever get CEF funding, even though she took developer contributions from Kirby?
No, I didn't ask that.
Well, she must have, because she was at the meeting today, right? You wouldn't have been if you didn't qualify. You would have been at that meeting.
I think she did get the funds. I think.
I wonder if she had to return that original money though, Jake.
I think she just couldn't use it because she just she had it in her one account, and she opened up a new account. So I think she just had to leave all that money that was in the other account dormant. But the issue is still that the influence was laid out in the first place, and there was nothing that stopped her from spending it before she opened up the new account and became a CEF candidate. So this loophole is now a thing unless they change it. Maybe they will.
So once you're a CEF candidate, I never asked this question, but once you're a CEF candidate and you get elected, then you're still a CEF candidate for your term, right? Like you can't accept, does it apply throughout your term?
Not that I know of.
I think it's only if you like elect to be a CEF candidate again, which Alan Kittleman was publicly saying if he won this, if he got elected this cycle, he was going to use CEF. Future cycle, I assume Deb's going to use it again.
Jake, you're right. It's for the next election. So you, once you've been elected, then, and you have closed out your account, then you are no longer, you're no longer a CEF candidate. You're whatever you want to be. You can become a CEF candidate, but you wouldn't qualify again to get a distribution as a CEF candidate until somebody ran against you. And I think there's rules about when you can declare to be a CEF candidate for the next election cycle. And I think it's a year, it's 1 year before the election.
Okay, thanks, Deb.
Yeah, so you're done. And actually, one other interesting question, Joan mentioned there were some interesting questions. One other one was, Liz asked it, we've got a certain amount of money. And in Liz's case, they made a specific determination not to spend money that they didn't think they needed to spend. So I got the impression that Liz has a nice chunk of change sitting in, I know, only Liz, okay. There's a nice chunk of change sitting in her account, and probably a good portion of that came from individual donors. And at the end of the whole experience, you have to return every penny that's left in your account. You don't do it by, 15, like a proportion, knowing that 15% of the money that you raised came from the individuals. So you can keep 15% of your money, and then you give the rest of it back to the county. You have to give every penny back. And that's also a little bit concerned, because candidates generally try and keep $2,000 to $5,000 in an account to keep up their websites, to go to events, to, just a variety of little things that might happen over the 3-year cycle before you would restart a campaign. And then Joan had the problem of not having a primary candidate, so she couldn't access money. I had the problem of having a primary candidate who refused to file as a candidate. So I couldn't collect money or make that application to collect the money. And it wasn't until, as Joan pointed out, although certainly Hank Boyd was no friend of mine, I had no idea who he was, but this third party came into the race whom I had never heard of in my life. And there he was. And since I had financially qualified, once Hank Boyd filed, I qualified to get a match. Of course, then the county executive did everything he could to make sure that I couldn't get the money. But that was a whole nother issue that we don't need to review tonight.
Right. So Deb, what can we do to strengthen the CEF to close the holes that you guys just listed, as well as make it so that candidates can get their money easier? Because we want public funding.
Absolutely. It even though there were these problems with it, Karen, it was a huge success.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I said last night in my speech is I feel like public financing is integral to democracy. And I can't think of a better way to describe it. So there were some very specific suggestions made. And actually, I think it was Keith Olinger who suggested this, that the county council have a public work session and that we review all of these things in a public setting and discuss everything. And then we can take the legislation that we have in place right now. We can make the changes that are possible to be made on the local level. And all of this can be done, anytime really, because it's going to be 4 years, at least, before we can even go through all of this again. But then we would make whatever local changes we can in Howard County. But some of the changes, like the problem that Joan had with not having a primary opponent, and so not being able to access the money, and the problem that I had having a primary opponent, but not being able to access the money. Those have to be changed, I think, on the state level. That was what was discussed tonight. So when that comes, we will have to become good advocates to our state delegates and senators to ask them to redefine these terms and to ensure that these loopholes don't exist.
Okay, very good. We look forward to that and definitely, support strengthening it and expanding it and making sure that it's sustainable for indefinitely, frankly. So, okay, very good. Thanks, Deb and Joan. We'll move on to the next slide, the ballot measures. I think basically all the ballot measures, state level and local level passed, and just point out that the Liberty Act, the petition to take away or to cancel the Liberty Act did not. So the legislation to keep the Liberty Act passed, and the bill, the ballot measure to legalize marijuana passed. So lots of big results here. So those are the election results. Are there any? So at this point, I'll just. I know we were talking throughout, but if there are any comments or questions, I'll pause right now.
Hey, Harry, can I make a quick comment? So I think that, like, overall, I think that progressives in general should be really relieved after this election that there wasn't a red wave from the federal level all the way down to the state level. I mean, the Senate, I haven't looked at the results. I don't know if anybody's seen the results from Georgia tonight, but probably I suspect Warnock will win, which would mean that the Senate held every incumbent seat and flipped a seat. So that's good. I think the bad news on the federal level is what happened with the railroad strike, but that's not an election issue. I do think, though, that, and the reason I bring that up is that I think that, Roe v. Wade, the abortion issue, I think that pushed a lot of people to the polls. I don't know if it made a difference in Maryland or not, where we tend to be a left-leaning state anyway, but the railroad decision is important because I think that's going to impact what happens in 2 years when we have a presidential election. So I'm relieved how everyone voted. I was really pleased to see how Joan performed. I think she did fantastically well in that district. That gives me hope for 4 years from now. And so I'm just glad for all the work that we put in this election. I'm so glad that we were able to help, Deb, that we worked so hard for her, for Liz, and for Joan, and all the other things that we've been doing. But I also think that a club like ours can't take our foot off the pedal right now. So here he's going to talk about all that stuff next. So I'll stop there, but I just wanted to comment that I'm just really happy we didn't have a red wave.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Yeah, that's a big point. The fact that there wasn't a red wave. So thanks for pointing that out. Drew.
Yeah. Does anybody know how to get precinct level results for the election? I'm really curious about how the 5th district broke out, and you know, to learn from where we canvassed and where we didn't.
I'm pretty sure Ken Stevens knows.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Joel probably too.
Yeah. He may not be on, but I think we can get that. There might be that info might be in the, so after they certify the elections and things like that, that kind of information might be available on the state website.
Oh, I didn't try the state one. Yeah, I tried the.
Yeah.
Well, no, I tried. Maybe I did try the state. I couldn't find it on the web for the primary either, which should certainly be certified by now. I sent the Board of Elections an email and asked if they had it, and they never replied to it.
Okay.
So if nobody has their ideas, I'm going to go knock on their door.
So Drew.
Yeah.
Joel sent me all this information from the primary because I was gonna do a comparison to see how we did in Deb's district compared to all the others. And so he sent me all the raw data, but I have not been able to, and I haven't had time, and I haven't felt good enough to go through it and to see and do the analytics of it. But so I think Joel can find a way. He can send you the raw data, and you can probably, and you'll have to put it into some kind of spreadsheet. I didn't really understand it because it's not my thing.
Yeah, I can certainly figure out how to do that. I just have to get the data.
Yeah, and somehow Joel knows how to get it. So if you email him, I'm sure it doesn't look like he's on here now, right?
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thanks, Drew. Thanks, Carla. All right. So PDHC accomplishments, and forgive me if I overlooked anything, just listed some of the things that came to my mind. The no developer pledge, which was, I think it was a huge success. If you look at the, we have there were several pledge signers to the no developer pledge, but these are the people who these are the pledge signers that won. And so I think it was clear that there were people wanted to the candidates wanted to show that they're concerned about developer influence. And so it was nice to see that a lot of people signed. The HoCo4Us Slate signed the pledge as well, which is another I think accomplishment. Many of our PDHC members were on that slate, and I know that no one that's in the slate won the election, but I do believe that we were very successful in advancing our arguments when it comes to corruption or developer influence or zoning and land use, and increasing accountability and transparency. And in a short amount of time, we had people who, many of us who who didn't know each other. Maybe we met on video or something. We got together, we formed a slate. But I feel like I'm sure it felt like maybe it was like herding cats for Jake when he was getting all these people together. But I mean, I think that was really. I think it was a success. But I guess I measure it a little differently than just winning the election, because it's a long-term effort. So that was good. We had some PDHC endorsed some candidates in the general election, and there are some of those people that we endorsed won their elections in the general. We had State Delegate Jen Terrasa, Chao Wu, Councilmembers Liz Walsh and Deb Jung. So congratulations to them. And we had an endorsement process to do that. Supporting Joan and D5. I think Joan ran a really good campaign. Had kept it positive. And some people might think, she did talk about David Youngman, but again, if you're talking about his record, it's still positive, because you're talking about his record. You're not talking about the person as a as their character or whatever. They if his or her record is terrible, and saying that does not mean it's negative. So I think it was good to point that out, because the voter needs to know. So shared and Joan shared her vision, and a lot of young people got involved, and it was good. It was I think Joan, you should be proud of your accomplishments there. It's D5 is a big district, so that was very good. And of course, I still get nightmares about some of those things that were said about in the D4 campaign. I mean, it's just again, it's one of those things where in normal times, these kinds of behaviors would not be tolerated by people who consider themselves community leaders. The way that they waged a very vicious and disgusting campaign, using Black and brown people to benefit Howard Hughes Corporation, it's and to unseat one of the council members, Deb Jung, who was focusing on accountability and transparency, and I think that was disgusting. So anyways, I think we were we're glad that we were able to help with with her campaign. We testified on several county council bills. I think it's good that we need to continue doing that. One of the things that I observed when I first got elected, when I first started participating in county issues, actually a few years after that, was that from the left, there was nobody talking about zoning and land use, and the fact that PDHC is talking about zoning and land use means that some council member who brands themselves progressive and advances pro-developer agenda will not do so easily. And so that's what PDHC, that's the benefit of having PDHC, is we can say as a progressive organization, no, that's not a progressive bill, that's a terrible bill. And so or that's that's a very good bill, that's a progressive bill, and we support it. So that was good that we did that. We held some webinars in collaboration with different groups, and we have that on our YouTube and Facebook pages, and we had some podcasts as well, we recorded some podcasts on county issues. So I'll stop there for a moment and see if there are any comments or questions. Okay. Well,
I'm sorry, I have a question. This is a little bit off topic. What do we want to do with the pledge website? Or should we talk about this in like our board meeting?
I honestly, I think we should talk about it in the board meeting, but Megan, I think we should keep it because I think we should just, can we keep it up? Is it?
Yeah. And I mean, it wouldn't like, renew for like a while,
Right.
but I didn't know if, anyway, we can talk about this later.
You can put it on our to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's a good that's a good question, Megan. I agree with Karen that we should definitely keep it, but definitely worth just talking about more. So maybe we can talk about that in the board meeting too. But thanks for pointing that out. Okay, yeah, that's good idea there, Jake, to add the candidates to recognize the candidates maybe on the pledge website. All right. I mean, I think this is a huge list of accomplishments. So, and I mean, pretty much, the people who are responsible for this are all in this call, and some are not. There are others who are not. But I just I think just wanted to recognize that and say thank you to all of you. We have a really strong foundation for next year. We have a few things planned. We can discuss it more, but one is I think we need to have a so we've talked about this, others have mentioned this too, the community activists in Howard County need to have a legislative agenda that is that we can advocate for. And so PDHC I think can lead on that. Some of the topics are of course the HoCo by design, hopefully maybe an upcoming Office of Inspector General bill, talking about affordable housing and affordable housing policy, adequate public facilities ordinance, and generally just equitable allocation of resources, which I think is lacking. And I think making sure that communities that don't have schools have their schools, making sure that children who elementary, the top 6 elementary schools that are underperforming have mostly are attended mostly by Black and brown children in Howard County, severely underperforming. And so what's going on with that? So we need to stop giving away our money to developers and spending that on programs that really need it. Another thing is we can talk about we want to do on a frequent basis volunteer at the Howard County Food Bank. Last year or this year in June we participated at the Savage Fest. Hopefully we can do that again this coming year. And another program that we as volunteers we could support is perhaps the simulated congressional hearings at the HCPSS for the 5th graders. I think that's a really good program. So, just as individuals, but driven by by club members here, we can participate and help out there. We mentioned earlier the community canvassing. I think getting a van access would be really helpful for that. And so that's why we want members, PDHC members to be Progressive Maryland chapter members as well, so that we can become a Progressive Maryland chapter. And that would help with getting that access, and we can do the canvassing on a frequent basis as well. And we do have social events that we're thinking about as well. And so those are the ideas that we talked about. If there are any comments on this, any ideas, please share it now, and then definitely email or just let us know after. So yeah, I'll stop here and see if there are any comments or questions.
Harry, did you want to talk about the Howard County Food Bank volunteer thing we're working on this month?
Yeah. Thanks, Karen. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so per my usual, Jake will recall this from last year. And Jake, if you remember who you talked to last year, if you could send me that contact name again, because I filled out the application, I've left a phone message and they haven't gotten back to me. We're trying to arrange for a volunteer event at the Howard County Food Bank before the end of year holidays. They only do weekday volunteer opportunities. It's usually in the morning or the afternoon. Carla, how long were we there for last year? It was me, Carla, Kiana, I think Lori Liskin was there, Jenny Thomas came.
I think it was only 2 hours.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I believe it was.
Yeah, and you put together food kits while you're there. So again, it's a weekday. So if you're interested in, and I think Carla, did we wear our t-shirts? We'll wear our Progressive Dem t-shirts if you have one, and we'll go volunteer. I don't have a date for it yet, but if you're interested, let me know. It won't be this week. It won't be next week. It'll probably be the week after that. It'll probably be, is the 19th the week before Christmas? I think it'll be before the 19th, but we'll see. I'll find out more when they finally get back to me. So, but yeah, if anybody's interested in doing that, it's nice. You basically, you shop for food, put it in a bag and create those meal kits.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's that would be very good to do before the end of the year, and then of course on a regular basis next year. Any other comments or questions on Drew? You still have? Do you still have your hand raised, or did you want to say something?
No, I put an idea into the chat, but my hand is raised because I forgot to put it down a while ago.
Okay, very good.
But to say what I said in the chat, the wait, lower hand. Okay. Here you mentioned, you nailed it. You said we should have a goal of making sure that county resources are equitably distributed. I think that should be a top level bullet in the legislative agenda. And one thing that we could push to accomplish that is try to get the council to introduce legislation that says in the capital budget for schools and for the county at large, be open and transparent about where the money is spent. Require the budget to include a breakdown of what money is spent by both council district and by planning region. And I think if you were to do that, it would create a very strong incentive to reduce the inequities that we currently see.
Yeah, good points, Drew. I think that would be good to add, and with the details that you provided, we should we'll list them and make sure that I think that's a good idea, and so we'll make sure that how others feel. But I think when it comes from the point I think it follows the principles of accountability and transparency. So I don't expect a lot of resistance to it from people who want accountability and transparency. So thanks, Drew. Anything else? Okay. I think I kind of said this from the previous slide, but if there are just what last call on comments.
Wait a minute, Yuri, you mentioned in the chat to me about like something about what change.org. Oh yeah, the GoFundMe.
Yes. Oh, GoFundMe.
Yeah, Kiana, I recall you shared a GoFundMe account for
the railroad workers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's if you have it handy, maybe you could share it, and if you have any information about it, you could also provide it here.
Yeah,
I'll try and find it while you're talking.
Yeah, so what it's basically, I didn't read it, the title as Strike Fund. I hope they go on strike.
Same.
But it basically is asking for money. It's to like support them. Again, going back to like, I hope that this could helpfully lead them like going actually into strike, because the strike funds are what, of course, support workers as they're not working, basically. So, and yeah, it's basically a way to like support railroad workers. Yep, Harry put in the support their struggle. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Thanks for pointing that out. So it's in our PDHC group page. If anybody wants to take a look at that, you can either go there or follow this link, and if you can, please support the strike fund. So okay, very good. Thanks, Kiana. So if there are no additional comments or questions, I'm going to move to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Agreed.
All right. And is there any discussion? Okay, no discussion. So then, if you please send in your vote through the chat, and we can end after that.
Way to end the meeting on time, Harry.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.